Welcome back to Briggs on Books, the show where we talk to authors and people who help authors and people who help authors get published and who read the author's works before they get published, proofreaders, etc., etc. Our next guest, Peter Lancellotti, is a lot of things, but the most fascinating thing about him was he was telling me previously in another interview the process he went through to get his book published. Editors, line editors, what all was there, Peter?
They were, I had to get a developmental editor first to find holes in the story, particularly with the memoir. And then I had a line editor to tighten my sentences, copy editing for punctuation, and proofreading to make sure it, well, no book is ever perfect. There's always a little mistake here and there. Of course, I would find one or two.
Right.
But it is what it is. And in fact, it's interesting that now Amazon asks, did you use AI? Because if your book is too perfect, they reject it.
Wow.
And I know I have never used AI.
Yeah. Thank goodness. I didn't even know how to use that. But by the way, is this your the memoir, Alive After Living?
Alive After Dying?
Alive After Dying. Sorry about that, yes. That's the memoir.
Alive After Living.
Yeah. That's a memoir?
Yes, that is a memoir about dealing with the loss of a loved one. When a loved one dies, a piece of you dies with them, and you feel alive after dying. Yes. So it deals a little with grief, deals with after the death of a spouse. So yes, that is a true story. But according to some of the reviews I've read, like I think I told you in the last interview, it was much longer.
Yeah.
My editor cut it in half because she told me I was, not famous enough like, John Bon Jovi or
something like
Mercury.
that, yeah.
And it turned out to be 100,000 words, but I researched memoirs, and they really should be between 60 and 90,000 words. But she said, if we cut it down anymore, it's going to lose its...
Start to lose, yeah.
Yeah. And in a memoir, I had to learn the difference between an autobiography and a memoir. Autobiography is everything you ever wanted to know about me, and that would take a couple of volumes, which is why people write memoirs, because it's usually about one or two subjects. And as you can see in the subtitle, it was my discovery of my sexual orientation and my escape from a particular religion.
Okay. Can you tell us what that is, or do we have to read the book?
Well, I mean, it's in chapter 2, and I'm pretty blatant about it. The Catholic Church.
Catholic Church. Okay, yeah.
In fact, one of my mentors was a Jesuit who almost got thrown out of the Catholic Church because he was teaching Rosicrucianism on the side for me and others who were like 13 years old. And when he got kind of busted for that, they busted him down to bookstore manager because he used to be a math teacher. I said, well, what was it about math that was so objectionable? Well, I mixed it with Greek mythology like Plato and his mentioning of Atlantis and in math. So Plato said that the universe can be figured in numbers. That was not part of their curriculum.
No, I could imagine not. So now I'm just now getting the difference between a memoir and an autobiography. So memoirs are your memories of certain events, and I'm going to pop one up on the screen here. It looks like a picture of you and George Takei.
I can't see what you're doing, so I don't know.
We'll take my word for it. George Takei.
I'll take your word for it. Yes, I met Mr. Takei at a meeting from SAGE, which is an organization that is an advocate for older adults who are LGBTQ. And Mr. Takei and his husband Brad are incredible activists. And at this particular event, and there's a little funny anecdote, I know you wanted to hear some amusing stuff. I was actually volunteering to sign people in, and there was a long line, and all of a sudden I hear, Mr. Lancellotti, I love your name. I could say Mr. Lancellotti all day long. And his husband's like, George, there's a line. We have to get along. So then I met up with him inside, and I mean, I didn't do the typical starstruck thing. I've lived in Los Angeles since 1989, so nothing starstruck. I'm not starstruck. But, well, I was with Stevie Nicks, but we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, Mr. Takei was extremely interesting, and his speech was very moving when he was talking about World War II. He wrote a book, and his family had been actually taken into like a camp here in the United States during Pearl Harbor. And I didn't know anything like this about him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, it just simply had to do with being Japanese.
Yeah.
Because, Japan, Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And his speech was extraordinary. And we were honoring him that day. There were about, 200 industry professionals. And we'll get into why I was there, which was because I was the owner of a home care agency, which was the first premier LGBTQ older adult home care agency that had never been done successfully. And I thought, wow, everything's been done. And when you live in Los Angeles, you have to find a niche, to do something that's different. And do you want me to go into that now?
Sure, a little bit.
Okay.
You're a fascinating guy. I could listen to you talk all day, Peter.
Well, this is why I was volunteering for SAGE, because I ran a home care agency that was devoted to helping LGBT older adults. And a lot of people didn't understand, particularly other home care agencies who partnered with me, because their caregivers didn't know how to deal with the special needs of that demographic. And part of my interview process, the name of my company was Seniors Helping Seniors, which is part of a franchise that is in Pennsylvania. I had to go to Pennsylvania for training on this. I used to teach classes at USC, so I'm going to mix the two that I told you about, on starting a business, including the spreadsheet that showed the budget that, okay, this is insurance, this is your budget for your overhead. Do you want brick and mortar? Do you want to work from home? All of these things that you have to pay for.
Right.
And I remember very well, because I'm I have a sales and marketing background. I knew how to present the new ideas. I used to go to the West Hollywood City Council meetings. I used to go to the Los Angeles Council meetings. So I was becoming well known in the industry, like Laura Trejo. She's the definitive. This isn't even LGBT. This is like, she is the definitive social care manager of everyone in Los Angeles that deals with older adults. And she happened to lecture at one of my classes at USC. And being the forward person that I am, I got to know her, and she gave me ideas on how to help me make my agency better. So I would slip a question into my interview process with potential caregivers. Do you mind being trained by the LGBTQ Center in Hollywood? If they said, I don't need training, I'm a caregiver, I've done this forever, do you understand the special needs of LGBTQ? Well, they're like every other person. Well, yes, but transgendered people, and this was something I found out, this was a surprise to me, they are terrified of having a caregiver in their home due to possible abuse. And that was one of their main fears. And I made sure there was a woman who ran the department called the Transgender Economic Empowerment Project. Her name was Drian Wars. She was actually the person who helped, well, I won't get into that because I don't really know the whole story. She helped Caitlyn Jenner become Caitlyn Jenner. In fact, I heard that Caitlyn wants to be Bruce again. But
oh, boy. I read Caitlyn's book. I read that book. Peter, I want to drag you back towards literature, if it's okay at this point. I just popped a picture up on the screen as you dressed as Merlin, is it?
Yes, that's, there is, I think I told you I do meditation every morning. And I've been doing this for quite some time. And believe it or not, I only have about 100 poems, but I mean, I meditate every day, 365 days a year. You cannot force poetry.
Right.
And I have taken courses in, I know the difference between a limerick, a sonnet, a haiku, and I've written over 100. And I was talking to a friend of mine. In fact, I'm going to be interviewed on another podcast in South Africa with a woman who was telling me, she's an empath, if you have enough poetry, stop posting it on your website. You're giving all your stuff away. You have a book here. Yeah. So I go to this event, well, my late husband and I, we go to this event called the Labyrinth Masquerade put on by Sci-Fi Studios. And it's a 2-day affair, and it attracts 3,000 to 5,000 people. And it's based on the movie, The Labyrinth. And there was always a standing ticket for David Bowie, but he never came.
Never came.
Well, obviously, he's passed away. So the reason, the picture I sent you of Merlin is in the 1983 movie Excalibur with Nicole Williamson, who's also passed away. I had a costume made, $1,000 costume with the fitted helmet and the whole thing. And now I am known since 2008 as the definitive Merlin in Los Angeles. So when I was writing all my poetry, which is based on meditation, it just flows out of me. It either does or it doesn't. And I have enough now, according to Hanley Robertson in South Africa, to do a book.
Nice.
And the photograph was done by Violet Sprague Photography. Many professional photographers at this event have taken my picture. I mean, I've been in the LA Weekly. That picture's been everywhere. And the one Violet did, I loved it, with the orange and the black.
Yeah.
She did all those effects, and it kind of looks like I'm a little translucent, like I'm sort of appearing out of nowhere. And that is going to be the cover of From the Scrolls of I Am Merlin. And the reason I'm calling it that is the podcast, the lady in South Africa, her podcast is I Am Hanley, which gave me the idea of I am the definitive Merlin, so why not?
So that book, poetry, is going to be published
this year.
This year, nice.
Probably around Christmas.
And we saw the
I
cover.
want to finish the trilogy first.
Nice. Okay. Now, what do we? I just want to put one more book up here to get the attention of our viewers. Her Immortal, Menagerie.
Book 1, The Secret Scrolls.
The Secret Scrolls. And
now, I took a different route. I know a lot of writers who do series, they like to do cliffhangers. Now, personally, I don't like cliffhangers because, well, unless you're J.K. Rowling, and she doesn't do cliffhangers
Right.
either. She ends the story, but you know it's going to go on.
Yeah.
There's more that's going to happen. Well, that is exactly the way I wrote Her Immortal Menagerie. When you read book 1, you get to the end and you're going to go, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. There was some people that were still doing this and that, but it's not a cliffhanger. It's a saga.
a saga.
Book 2,
Nice.
yeah. Book 2, which I tell you right from page 1, takes place 8 years after, because book 1 is, excuse me, I'm so sorry. 1982 and 1983. That's book 1. And
Okay.
I think I told you it was based on inspiration from Mrs. Doris Thoreau, who passed away in 1982. She was a mentor of mine, and she was the inspiration for it.
Now,
In
is
fact-
book 2 out yet?
No, it will be in February.
Okay.
We're in the second round of editing now. I found my first editor, who edited the first book, he took a full-time job and he had to go, but I really liked his style
Yeah.
because, well, I'm a big fan of the Brits, and their style is very much like my style. In fact, he read Alive After Dying and contacted me, and he wrote a review on the Amazon.co.uk. You can't see his review on .com,
Oh, boy.
which is weird. I mean, I've got reviews on Goodreads, Amazon, and England, and they don't seem to all come together. Like it looks like I only have 20 reviews.
But right now is a good time to get the first book because the second book is imminent.
That's what I'm promoting.
Okay.
In fact, I put a picture of the opening, like the title page I did a little special effects of my own with a little fire. Her Immortal Menagerie, the ethos of legends. That's going to be book 2.
Book
Because
2.
by the end of book 1, you know who the immortals are, you know what kind of immortals there are, and you know about some people who have lived for a long time but may not be immortals. And I think I also told you that's based on my studies in gerontology.
That's right.
We are talking about longevity all the time. And there is a gerontologist from England, as a matter of fact. His name is Aubrey de Grey. And he suggests, he's he's 60, and I thought he looked like he was 80. I guess he delights in looking older.
Yeah.
I don't know why. He's younger than me. And I think you're younger than me. You said you were older than me, but I don't think so.
I am, yeah.
I'm 162.
We're about the same then.
He purports that there are people walking the earth right now who have genetically, this is genetic, nothing religious or anything, that are 1,000 years old. And in some of the philosophical work that I have done, which is speculative in my memoir, which is things that Mrs. Doris Thoreau talked about and my Jesuit friend, Brother Brennan, they talked about these things. But when you're writing a memoir, it's got to be facts.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have dialogue, you can talk about some speculative things. And one of my reviewers said, I can't wait for him to come out with that sci-fi book he's been talking about, which I told you took 41 years to write.
Yeah.
And now it's coming to fruition because Mr. Ashford, who was my first editor, I found another woman, Meryl Velasco. She's British. And she lives in Los Angeles, so I can actually be in the same time zone without having to deal with London time and talk to him on the phone. That was a real pain, up at 2 a.m. talking to him about this, that, and the other. She lives in Los Angeles, and she's a very intelligent millennial. I just, I think I told you I love surrounding myself with people who are smarter than I am and have expertise. And I don't believe wisdom is not based on age.
Right.
Wisdom is based on experience, expertise, and humility. I think I also mentioned that relationship building is it's marketing, editing, all of the things that are required to put a book out there.
Yeah.
There are people who are smarter than me. I'm the writer. I'm the author. I don't know everything about publishing.
Right.
Someone said to me, you have 25 years of telecom and internet marketing. How can you not know this? Well, publishing is an entirely different industry. I don't know. I didn't know. It's funny. I wrote the memoir, and then I thought, I don't have a game plan to market this thing.
Right.
And then I had to research. What do I do?
Well, let me say this, Peter. I'm putting the cover up of the memoir, Alive After Dying, and I'm going to read this very soon. I have quite a stack, but this is going to be in my stack. You're fascinating to talk to, and you're a storyteller, and I got a feeling that Alive After Dying is going to be a fascinating read. But we're marketing right now this book that's on the screen, her Immortal Menagerie book. It's book one is it a trilogy?
Yes, and I'm finding that I'll be right up front, and I'll say this on camera. The sales are not going as well as I expected because I came out with it in October, and I did a little more research. Most people do not want to take a chance on a series they don't know until more of the series is available. Like, what if they get to the end of it and say, didn't like it?
Yep.
Well, no one has said that. Last time we spoke, I did figure out what was wrong with why people couldn't get there. Amazon reviews up there. Did you know that people have to purchase $50 worth of anything to even put a review? Because I told you, I gave them away because they signed up for my newsletter. That was part of my gimmick.
Right.
I thought, let's put it on social media. Use the first 100 people to sign up, gets a free Kindle version. And 62 people did. And I gave away 62 of them. Now,
But they can't write a review because they haven't bought $50 for it.
Exactly. So what I did was I updated my Goodreads account, which is an excellent website for other authors or other readers who are looking for books, because that is just strictly about finding books on your subject. You type in and that's the other thing. I'm going to give a secret away.
All right.
There's a program called Publisher Rocket, and you can Google it on not Google it, but go on YouTube and say, ask what does Publisher Rocket do? What it does is it helps you create keywords that will elevate your book when someone types in a particular keyword. So I have not pushed her Immortal Menagerie high yet. I have pushed Alive After Dying, which oddly enough, after your show, Alive After Dying sales went through the roof, but nobody was buying her Immortal Menagerie.
Yeah.
Well, not nobody, but not enough. At least not what I expected. And that was because, well, he hasn't put out the series yet. He hasn't put out book 2 yet.
Maybe that's why,
We
yeah.
don't even know what book 3 is. Well, I will tease you. I do know what book 3 is. Of course I do. I'm the one that's writing it. But and I have begun the writing of it. It's just a matter of presenting it properly so that when I give it to an editor, she's like, well, there's a hole here, and you're backing yourself into a corner there with a mystery you can't solve.
Right.
Which Mr. Ashford told me, the story, Her Immortal Menagerie, and this is why it took 41 years, it's a very convoluted story. When I say convoluted, I think I told you what my professor said. He thought it was like an orgasm on paper.
On paper, yeah. We have to go, Peter. We have to go. We're out of time.
Oh my God! Has it already been 12 minutes?
It's been almost 30, I think. So, you're fascinating. I know why people want to buy your memoir, because you're fascinating. And I'm going to read the memoir. I'm going to read the other one, the Immortal Menagerie. And we're going to keep talking. I want you to come every month or so. You're the most fun guest we've ever had.
We haven't even talked about me working in scientific research, so that'll be our next topic.
Our next topic. Get Peter's book. Look at the website. It's on the screen, peterlancellotti.com. There's his Instagram. Look him up. He's a lot of fun and fascinating. And you know what Peter has done? He had an idea. He got it on paper. He had proofreaders and editors read it. He got it published, so you can too. Thank you, Peter, and we'll be back with more Briggs on Books right after this.
Thank you, Mike.
We'll leave with this great picture of George Takei. We'll be back with more authors right after this.